Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Well, folks, here I got here a compilation I made up with a bunch of random pictures, Thomas the Engine and his friends, and some other miscellaneous railroad videos from Paul the train guy, and there's miscellaneous trains as well.
Today, I'm in search of steam locomotives, that is. Once upon a time, these giants roamed the land, and it's amazing to think that we as a civilization just used boiling water for power, enough to drive enormous trains like this one. Water boils to create steam, and the steam pushes a piston back and forth to drive the wheels. My journey started at the Illinois Railroad Museum with the Frisco 1630. A Russian decapod, referring to its 10 driving wheels. It was built in 1918 for export to Russia, but was embargoed when the Bolshevik Revolution took place. Now it's been lovingly restored and runs almost every weekend. I met up with my friend Charlie Voida, who is an expert in railway post office cars, or RPOs, and he demonstrated how mail used to run on the railroad. You had to be very efficient at sorting letters and get along with your coworkers in the hot confines of the car. The windows were all sealed shut to prevent mail theft. Trains used to catch mail at speeds up to 100 miles per hour, and this mail catch was used to swipe mail hung from line-side poles at various stations along the way without having the train stop. After that wrapped up, I headed up to Wisconsin to visit Eric Scheikati, a country western musician who also works for the Leona and Northern Railroad. They just finished a rebuild on their locomotive number 4, and I had a great time riding around on it through the woods. After each run, they let riders have a chance to blow the whistle, so I decided to try my hand. For lunch, I opted for mayo on a hot dog and ran up to the gas station to grab some monsters for the crew. Then I decided to walk to the back of the train and ride in the caboose. This would have been one of the best jobs on the railroad, and riding up top on the cupola makes for an awesome view looking up the length of the train. It was time to head home, and I swung through Lombard Hobbies near Chicago. This place has the best stock and selection of any model shop I've ever seen. And I even ran into my friend and Chicago area rail fan James Bradley, totally on coincidence. Anyways, follow Paul the Train Guy to keep up with my next adventure. So what the heck is going on with all these trains in Ohio? I went out on the rails to investigate to find out the truth. And the truth is, I was hyped up over the Wheeling and Lake Erie's last SD40-2 painted in the General Motors paint scheme, headed west out of Akron. Everything worked out right for us as we chased it into the golden sun, and it's rare for this particular job to run west of Medina in daylight. The action didn't stop there because a few days later, Norfolk Southern slapped the Virginian Heritage Unit on a westbound out of Buffalo with an old Central Maine and Quebec AC 4400 train. I was lucky enough to catch it in the only 5 minutes of sun for the day out in Huron. Then they sent the same engines back east the next day, and I almost got blocked out of my shot by another train. What a close call. But the crown jewel of them all happened on the other side of the lake, and I went up to Canada to capture the rarest combination I've ever seen on the rails. A Grand Trunk and a Burlington Northern, two of my favorite paint schemes in a very unlikely territory. It just goes to show that gems still exist, if you know where to find them. Follow Paul the Train Guy for more of my railroad adventures. Hey everybody, Paul the Train Guy here. Today, we're going to talk about Jeeps. Not the Willis Overland vehicles that have become every teenage driver's second-hand mechanical nightmare, but the durable and unstoppable general-purpose 4-axle locomotive, hence GP. Now these days, most of these are second, third, fourth, and fifth-hand locomotives that have been cascaded down through a bunch of different owners. It's not because they're unwanted, but they've actually increased in value because nobody currently manufactures a small 4-axle locomotive. 4-axles are best suited to provide service to little trackside industries that can't handle the big stuff used over the road through tight curves and light rail. The irony is, at one time these Jeeps were the biggest engines available, assigned to the railroad's hottest trains. Now as a model railroader, at least half of my roster is Jeeps, and I love classic EMD standard cabs. But check out this goofy design. This is a newly released Broadway Limited model, complete with sounds like the real one. It's the only locomotive to have such unique styling along the roof, designed by the same General Motors engineers responsible for tail fins on cars. From the factory, the design was native to the GP30, but here's when things get complicated. This is officially a GP39M, built in 1963 for the Great Northern Railway. In the 80s, the old 567-powered fleets were aging and tired, and instead of buying new locomotives, Burlington Northern decided to take a bunch of their old units and even buy retirees from other railroads, sending them through the shops to get freshened up with updated electronics and new 645 power assemblies. This means 645 cubic inches of displacement per cylinder, and these engines have 16 of them. The updated GP39s weren't all similar, considering the wide range of donor cores, but the iconic cab lines of the GP30 remained through the rebuild on this one and a few others. I really think the Broadway Limited has made the most definitive model of the GP30. I mean, take a look at this. With as many of these Jeeps as I've seen out on the rails, it's awesome to add a pair to my roster. And if you want 1, 2, 3, 4, or more, you can order them from Broadway Limited's website and stay tuned for future releases. In the meantime, Paul the Train Guy over and out. A radioactive train? Something is going on, and I set out to get to the bottom of it because my viewers shouldn't be kept in the dark. Paul the train guy here. So I went down to Oak Ridge, Tennessee to the old government facility where the atomic bomb was developed and met up with the crew of the 9553 for quite the special day. So what happens here? Well, radioactive waste or product is hauled in and out, and while I got my daily dose of radiation in the East Tennessee sun, these trains are safe. But what's even more astounding is that the locomotives used to haul the cars out are vintage machines owned by a member of the Southern Appalachian Railroad Museum, a group dedicated to preservation of the area's railroad history. Museums are cool, but nothing beats seeing something classic and revenue service, having a real reason to run. The guys invited me to follow them around for the day, and I got some awesome shots that were a throwback to a long-gone era on the main lines. We paused for a moment to look over a new book release, the expanded version of Freight Train Graffiti offered by Beyond the Streets, so consider picking up a copy. Then it was back to work for the final haul of the day, and the crew was nice enough to give a horn show on the engine's Leslie RS5T horn at sundown, a sound of ghosts of an era gone by. Follow along for my next railroad adventure.
I love the remake here of the Knight Rider car, or the original classic from back in from the 80s. Oh man, I used to love the show, Knight Rider. And there'll be the original Knight Rider stored in a warehouse, indeed.